common sense discussion for the common sense citizen. Strap yourself in, put your trays in the upright position, remove dentures and loose jewelry, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and come along for the ride. It is time for the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN 830, and our affiliates and streaming on the TuneIn app. It's Joe time, baby.
All right, folks, good morning and welcome to the actually very last edition of the Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Here it is, February 26th, and I am Joe Mangiacotti from the Boxtrap Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. We're online at tjmshow.com. You can follow us on our social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. Join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Our text line is up and running. That's available. You can text us like you would text anyone else. Just use the number 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. Suggest you probably just save that on the phone. Easy to do that. You have the option of emailing the same message at textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. It appears on the same screen, folks. We're also live streaming on my Facebook page, my Twitter page, my YouTube channel, Twitch TV, and my LinkedIn page as well. So many ways to listen to the show, of course, streaming on the TuneIn app. Tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do it. No questions asked as well. Good morning, Russ. Russ is flying the board this morning.
Good morning, Joe. How are you?
I'm good. Another snowstorm in. Really no problem. It all came yesterday. I guess you got freezing temperatures rolling in. But whatever's going on here, folks, really nothing compared to the men and women and families in Ukraine as the battle for Kyiv continues and is underway. They really thought that the Russians were going to take the capital yesterday, but apparently they have not been able to. I think that Putin is getting a pushback that he underestimated. And I'm watching this, and President Zelensky, this guy was an actor comedian that became president. And yeah, it was funny, and there were a lot of jokes to that, but this man is a patriot, and Putin's out there with the where are you? You're running and hiding, and so he makes these videos at great danger to himself. His words: he's number one on the list. His family's number two on the list, and he says, "We're right here. I'm here. The staff is here. The soldiers are here." He put out an order, every man from 18 to 60 years old to pick up a weapon. The police in Ukraine have put out something like 10,000 rifles and weapons, handed them out like candy, is one of the reports, handing them out like candy. You got to think about that for a moment and wonder why the Second Amendment is so important to us. Sometimes I get these jamokes who talk about our Second Amendment, and they say that you don't need this to hunt, and hunting, and we don't hunt. If you think that the Second Amendment had anything to do with hunting, you're clueless. You have no idea what you're talking about. Our founding fathers did not place the Second Amendment in there for hunting. Hunting was an everyday event. It was just a way of life. They didn't even think about that. Like, you stop at 7-Eleven or the gas station to pick up your Slurpee or whatever. In those days, you went out and you killed to eat your food. So the Second Amendment has nothing to do with sportsmanship and hunting. It has to do with stopping tyranny. It has to do with making an even playing field. And the Japanese had it in World War II. They would never attack the mainland of the United States because, as the admiral said, there's a rifle behind every bush. And they knew then that attacking the United States on mainland, you didn't have to just deal with the United States military. You'd have to deal with every citizen. Hundreds of millions of weapons and billions of rounds of ammunition. And you're watching that happen in Ukraine right now. And that's what they're saying. So apparently we, the United States, offer a ride. We offered to get Zelensky out of there under our protection of special forces or contract security or whatever the deal was going to be. And he says, I don't need a ride. He says, I need ammunition, not a ride. Just, it doesn't get it. They just don't get it. They don't get it. Putin is telling his people that he's clearing Ukraine of Nazis. Now, don't forget that Ukraine is the only democracy in the region. Well, actually, I think it's the only democracy other than in Israel that's is run by a Jew. Zelensky's Jewish, but he's got to rid Ukraine of Nazis and drug addicts. This is what he's trying to tell his people. Meanwhile, he's having a lot of problem on the home front because not everybody apparently, right? He has some people have stepped out against this in Moscow. There were demonstrations or anti-war demonstrations on Thursday in 54 cities. 1,700 demonstrators were arrested in Moscow, or in the 54 cities, I should say, in Russia. So he may not have the total support of the people of Russia. In this whole sanction thing, way too late. You're closing the gate after the cattle's out of it, man. And Biden has so apprehensive about really imposing sanctions that would hurt. Meanwhile, let's not forget that we are buying 500,000 barrels of oil a day from Russia. So we're financing this absolute ludicrousy. This is somebody, an evil dictator, deciding that he wants to take the land of a sovereign nation. I know you can get into the history of Ukraine and all that, but they are, in fact, a sovereign nation. And he decides he wants to annex it back. And he's not going to stop there. History repeats itself, and we're not learning anything. Putin today is a modern day version of Hitler. You give him this, and he's going to keep going. And now he'll be up against the NATO nations. Now you've got nuclear powers facing off each other. And we're allowing this, despite all of this. The Crimea, we did nothing with the annexation of Georgia. So you look back, this guy has had a multi-decades long plan that he's executing here. And we're watching it happen, and we're not doing what we need to do. So not only are we buying 500,000 barrels of oil a day from Russia, the Keystone Pipeline produces 800,000 a day. So just by reactivating, turning Keystone Pipeline back on, we eliminate the need to buy that 500,000. We produce another 300,000. But at this point, I'd be okay if we gave that to Germany and nations who are dependent on Russia. Just give it to them temporarily. Because Putin got these certain nations dependent. He controls the lights and the heat now. And we've allowed this to happen. But that anti-Trump sentiment was so thick when this administration came in, despite the fallout, that he had to undo the Trump policies. Nord Stream 2 was part of the sanctions and stopping it for a darn good reason. Have you been able to figure that out yet? Why? Because Trump knew you could not let Russia have that kind of control, much less that much revenue. The Biden administration was so anti-Trump that they screwed up the Abraham Accords. They canceled the sales of planes to the United Arabs, insulted Egypt. For the first time, you had heads of the Middle East sitting at the table with the heads of Israel talking, opening up direct flights between the nations in diplomatic channels. And they had to screw that up too. Now, I know there are a lot of things we can point out for past presidents, but a lot of what's going on today lands right on Joe Biden. And I'm one of the first guys to always defend this. When you get criticism about presidents, going on a golfing weekend or flying to Hawaii or spending it at the family house. I'm the first guy to say, oh, stop that. Every president has that. Every president does that. The president's always the president. It doesn't matter where he is. Everything follows him. I'm the first guy to say that. But right now, Biden should not be in Delaware at the beach house. He should be in the Situation Room for every single one of these moves. Even the optics of it is bad. There comes a time when you need to be the actual president. The problem is he's never been the president. But I got to tell you something. The spirit, the patriotism, the hearts of these men and women in Ukraine who are fighting, and they'll fight with every last breath. And you've got members of parliament saying, I don't have a rifle, but I have a kitchen knife, and I'll gut that Russian pig. And we've got the hero Marine who blows himself up at the bridge to halt the advance of Russian troops over that bridge. Heroic actions. Shukun. Vitaly Shukun was manning Ukraine's Heneshek Bridge when Russian troops attempted to take over. And according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the battalion decided the only way to stop them was to blow up that bridge. And they say Shukun, a Marine, blew himself up along with the bridge in order to save his fellow soldiers and stop the Russians from progressing. That's the kind of things you're going to see coming out of there. And what are we doing? What are we doing? There was so much we could have done ahead of time. Now they're talking about these javelins are doing a great job. They have not taken air superiority in Ukraine because the javelins are working. And now we're talking about sending, and NATO sending weapons. So how are they going to get them there? They can't fly them in. So how are they going to get? They should have been there long before the invasion started. Now, they decided they were going after Kyiv last night, and they were going to take it off. And Zelensky comes out and he says, his quote, "Tonight is the night the enemy will storm Kyiv. Our enemy will use all the forces at his disposal to break our resistance. Vile, harsh, and not human, you cannot lose the capital." This actor comedian is going to go down as one of the world's best leaders. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Zelensky. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let's go to the phones. Mark in Worcester, talk about Ukraine. Good morning, Mark. You look marvelous. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. You're gonna miss me pestering you every Saturday morning, huh? You're gonna miss that?
No, well, you have your
Yeah,
phone works. Your phone works on a Monday, Friday, and Sunday, don't they?
Oh yeah.
There you go.
So, anyways, yeah, we can listen to Ken from Bolton for 20 minutes. He'll tell us what's really going on. Yeah, right. You know, there was lines and lines of people trying to get to across the Polish border. You hear about that?
Yep.
Ukrainians.
Yeah, they're all going. They have to go west.
Yeah, they're all going all right, unless you're a man and you're between the ages of 18 and 60, or even look like they're telling you, you, and you, get out of the car. Why do we have to get out of the car? Because you're going to the Russian front and you're going to fight for your country. That's why you're in the army now.
Mm-hmm.
See you later.
Yep.
And then the woman and the children, they can continue to Poland, but the men between 18 and 60 to the front.
Yep. As a matter of fact, there's reports, Mark, of even them going down to kids as young as 14 grabbing guns.
Yep.
They're handing them out. One of the quotes of the reporter said they said they're handing them out like candy. Literally, you just
Yep.
go to the police station. They'll give you a gun, some ammunition, go on your way. Meanwhile, the Russians have are infiltrating the city and dressing like Kiev or Ukrainian police. So this is
Yeah.
getting to a very guerrilla type warfare.
And you know what's happening to them? They're getting their squashes blown off by the Wolverines. That's what's happening.
Throw back to Red Dawn. Got it.
Yeah. Red Dawn for real.
Yeah.
And if you don't think it can happen in this country, you're living in a dream world, because it could.
I've been saying, look at Mark. This that's the reason I'm pointing out, folks. I watch what's going on there, and then I look at the people here who tell us we don't need the Second Amendment. Why do you need that? I'd like to hear the argument why you don't need that many rounds of ammunition now, because I got to tell you right now, everybody in Ukraine wishes they had several thousand more rounds. And for people here, and I have a pretty decent circle of friends who have been accumulating ammunition, well, some of them for their entire life. But as of lately, in the last year or two, they started accumulating to build it up. I'm no exception to that. I've done the same thing. I keep more ammunition on hand than I usually do.
Hey, go to the Walmart in where the heck is it? Go to the Walmart, not in Worcester. You can't find any ammo.
Boylston. There's one in Boylston.
Yeah. Thanks to Jim McGovern, you can't even buy a gun in Worcester anymore, from what I hear. Not in a Walmart. But anyways, you go to the one over in
well, there's West Boylston, Northborough. There's one over in Auburn, or actually it's Oxford, I think technically. It's right on the Oxford-Auburn line.
You can't find. The point I'm making, you can't find any ammo.
No, I know, it's tough.
You find a few boxes on the shelf locked up. That's it. The rest of the thing is they're empty. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, of course there's a reason for that. Because
people ain't stupid. That's why.
And do you really think that when Ukraine falls and he has saying he does end up with Ukraine and he's not attacking the infrastructure because he wants an intact country, because he wants to place a puppet regime in there? Do you think once Ukraine is unified with the former USSR that he's going to stop there? When you got the Baltic nations that broke off, they're part of NATO. Now we have a real problem, because once he gets through Ukraine, Mark, he's against NATO nations. There's no buffer there. Ukraine's been a buffer.
He's not stupid. Okay, he's an evil SOB, but he ain't stupid. He's not going to attack Poland. He's not going to attack Lithuania, any that's NATO, because he knows that there are ballistic missiles in Poland and in these Eastern European countries, and it'll be World War III, and he don't want that.
No,
he wants the infrastructure intact. That's what he wants.
Yes, he does.
But it's not going to go as smoothly as he wants to. I think the Wolverines are going to give him a hell of a tussle.
And
all right, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mark. And I think that you calling them Wolverines, for those that don't know that reference, it comes from the movie Red Dawn, which is there's actually the original and a remake. And the original had the guy Roadhouse, why the hot guy that everybody was always Patrick Swayze. Thank you. Yeah, Patrick Swayze was in the original, and there was a remake of it, and it is about Russia coming in and with help of other nations. Anyway, they end up coming into the Northeast. They paratroop in. They divide America. There's free America. There's occupied America. And Wolverines is a group of high school kids and the football team and things that take off into the mountains. And they gather guns and ammunition from the stores, but from what the families, their dads had, and some of the residents that stocked it away. And they're teenagers, not soldiers, but they become guerrilla fighters. And they're fighting, and they end up actually doing a lot of damage. An American Air Force pilot goes down. He teams up with them for a while. So the Wolverines are just citizens that become guerrilla fighters when the country's invaded. So I guess the calling them Wolverines makes sense here, because this is what's happened. I mean, imagine this: your 14-year-olds are grabbing weapons as young as that. But 18, the official order from Zelensky, 18 to 80, you're issued a gun and you fight, and you fight. And the Russians are using their own psychological warfare and tactics. They're dressing as Ukrainian police and officials to be able to walk around and cause damage as well. So now you're not sure if you see a uniformed Ukrainian official in uniform, are they Russian or not? And considering that Russian is a language, especially in eastern Ukraine, many of their citizens are Russian speaking. So it's not like you can tell from that. So they are infiltrating. They really thought that they were going to have Kyiv fall last night, but before going on the air this morning, they had not taken the capital. They had not taken it. So they still hold. Now, the prize would be getting Zelensky. Now, I hope that Putin isn't so stupid as to put a bullet in the guy's head if they get him and turn him into a martyr. And then there was some talks, or there was some movement towards a talk of coming to some kind of arrangements. And he said, well, come to Minsk. And of course, Zelensky isn't going to go to Minsk, and he's not about to go wherever Putin says, let's have this talk, because he's never coming back, one way or the other, whether he's imprisoned and he's put somewhere where there are no windows or he's executed. He's not going to do that. But they have been fighting the Air Force base that's about 20 miles northeast of Kyiv. Russians apparently got control of it for a while, for a brief moment. And then the Ukrainians were able to take it back. They had 20 helicopters. The witnesses there described it, the Ukrainians described it as locusts coming in and grabbing it. They were able to take that back. Now, that's an important stronghold. If Russians are able to control the Kosovo airport, then they have the ability at will to fly in equipment and troops and blood and medical supplies, whatever they need. And for some reason, so they've also taken up Chernobyl. Now, we remember Chernobyl, of course, 1986, the Chernobyl meltdown, the worst nuclear accident on the planet. I think it was HBO or Showtime. I think it was HBO. A couple of years ago, did a show, a little mini-series called Chernobyl, which was absolutely fantastic. And if you haven't seen it, I suggest you do this as one of these binging days that you might have on a snow day or something. Chernobyl. And what happened there, and the breakdown that went on there, and just how bad it is. So now it's been under control, but it's still very radioactive. And if they start digging up things and breaking the coverings in the cements, there's still radioactive material there. It's a mess. I would not want to be anywhere near Chernobyl even today. I mean, the half-life on this, on uranium, are millions of years. So they've taken Chernobyl, the town of Chernobyl. Now, NATO allies are saying that they will get more weapons. And Biden just authorized or released or said $350 million in aid. Now, I've heard this report over and over again, but nobody, to my knowledge, and if you've heard it or seen it somewhere, let us know, what is the breakdown of the $350 million? Is that cash? Is that weapons? Is that ammunition? What is the $350 million making up, or what is it going to buy for them? I don't think Zelensky wants a plane showing up with a pallet of $350 million like another president did to an enemy, but not an ally. He would rather have Javelin missiles, ammunition, weapons, anti-tank weapons, anti-aircraft weapon. These are what he needs. And how are you going to get them there? This is the thing. We knew this is not like we didn't see it coming and know it was coming. We could have given him a heck of a lot more equipment and consultants. We didn't have to put American soldiers there. There are private contractors that could have been there to help him train his guys, show them how to operate some of the stuff that they might not know it's about. All right, we're going to take a break here in a second for the bottom of the hour on the very last Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. But starting next week, we had Mondays. So I'll be on bookend the weekends, Mondays and Fridays, Sunday mornings as well. So that was what's happening after today. So last Saturday of the Joe Mangiacotti Show is today. And that will wrap it up, 508-871-7000. To join the conversation, I am asking Dr. Larry Fedor to join us at 7 o'clock. He has a very unique take on this international situation, and he has recently done some good interviews that he can share some of that information. Stick with us. Good morning and welcome to Case Files from the LPDAM, where we take a look at the lessons from actual cases, the law behind the findings, and where we share the experiences of the experts of the Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts. Joining us this week is Sean Burke, who is the current president of LPDAM and director of the Social Justice Advocacy Project and author of industry books. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Joe.
Hey, welcome back to Case Files. And I just thought I would ask the real simple question, kind of a refresher. We've been doing this a little while, but who are private investigators and where do they come from?
Joe, private investigators are people just like everyone else, except for they have special training and experience in the investigative field. A Massachusetts PI is held to the highest standard of any licensee in the Commonwealth. This is why the state police is the licensing agency rather than the Secretary of State or a municipality.
Wow, the state police. They must do an extensive background check on someone to get a PI license.
They do, Joe.
PI.
The state police background investigation of every PI applicant includes a criminal, financial, and personal background check. It's pretty extensive and not an easy background investigation to pass. This is completed on a yearly basis, and there is no guarantee of being renewed. So a private investigator has to make sure they are professionally ethical as well as a good citizen on a personal level. If you hold a Massachusetts PI license, I am confident to say that you are a good, upstanding citizen. Joe, in addition to the required background check, to be a licensed private investigator, you must have either worked for a licensed private investigator business for at least 3 years or hold the rank of a sergeant with the police department. It is probably one of the hottest licenses to obtain in Massachusetts because of this. At LPDM, we narrow the criteria even more to help the public locate a PI who offers specific services for a client's needs. These professionals can do it and get it done right. Remember, Joe, you're in good hands with LPDM.
You certainly are, Sean. Hey, thanks for stopping by Case Files again.
Thank you, Joe.
And thank you for joining us for Case Files from the LPDAM. Join us here each week on WCRN 830 AM and online anytime at lpdamcasefiles.com. Visit the site at lpdam.org. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at PI in Mass. And of course, call anytime 800-955-6274. For Sean Burke, I'm Joe Mangiacotti. This find of her home for Teddy's Friends brought to you by Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet. Today's candidate is Moto. He's a 4-year-old male terrier American pit bull mix, tan and white, and is very much house trained. Moto is an intelligent boy who knows what he likes. Some of his favorite things are strolling leash walks and quiet nights at home. This lovely boy is sweet and laid back and shy side with plenty of good manners and expects the same from both human and dog alike. For Moto, this means taking the time to get to know him. Moto is a gentleman who prefers to exchange pleasantries and go for a walk rather than to chest pump the high five type greeting that more outgoing individuals prefer. He is past that puppy stage and in the prime of his life. Moto is looking forward to living as the only dog in a quiet adult home. Moto's motto is relax and take it easy. If you share the same philosophy, Moto might like to meet you. For more on Moto, click Teddy Goodpup's Facebook page. Pictures and links to the Worcester Animal Rescue League. Find of Her Home is brought to you by Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or Facebook at Boxdrop Middlesex.
We know why you're awake. Your child is about to get their driver's license. Levante's Auto School offers 1-week driving programs to help make sure your child stays safe and focused behind the wheel.
877 Drive Ed. Who's Ed?
That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Learn to drive safely and efficiently. Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click Levante'sAutoSchool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to learn the rules and keep your cool. Call 877 Drive Ed.
Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
This is Sean Burke, president of the Licensed Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts, asking you to visit us at lpdam.org when you think you need a private investigator. Don't let your emotions negatively affect your future. Get your answers through a Massachusetts licensed private investigator. Get the facts without risking your credibility by unknowingly committing a criminal offense. You need a license to perform investigations in Massachusetts. What are some types of work that requires a license? Any type of surveillance, interviewing someone for a third party, background and asset checks are just a few examples. For more on this, visit us at lpdm.org and tune into AM 830 WCRN Sunday mornings at 7:30 for case files from the LPDM or anytime at lpdmcasefiles.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the first hour of the Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxtrap Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. And this will be the last Saturday show for the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We'll continue on Sunday mornings at 6 o'clock like we have been doing for years. But also starting this next week, as Saturday goes away, we will add Fridays at 1 o'clock. So we will bookend the weekend, Mondays and Fridays at 1 o'clock, Saturday mornings at 6 a.m. You can still tune in, but no live show Saturday morning. And of course, all of our shows are available as a podcast. You can find that on Spotify and iHeartRadio. Tune in, just look for the Cameo Media shows, and they're all there, folks. And this is, of course, streaming on the TuneIn app. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. And don't forget our text line at 617-297-8388. Text tells us that, Walmart in Leicester, Hudson, Northbridge, off Route 146, exit 5. There are a few of them around. Quite honestly, I don't think I've ever bought a gun or ammunition from a Walmart. I use independent gun dealers. That's what I've always done. 508-871-7000. So last night, the word was going into Saturday night for Ukraine that they were going to take Kyiv, but they have not. Airstrikes hit the cities. Tanks rolled in. Casualties are mounting on the third day. They really thought they were going to topple Kyiv. Kyiv leadership thought it. Ukraine forces fighting fierce battles on all fronts there. Firefights erupted in several areas around Kyiv, including the center, throughout the night into the morning there. Ukraine officials said Russian saboteurs groups were trying to operate in the Ukrainian capital, like I was saying earlier. They're putting on Ukrainian and Kyiv police uniforms, trying to blend in and conduct their version of the guerrilla warfare there. President Zelensky urged Ukrainians to keep fighting. He also had to go on and do another post and deny the Russian reports, right? So Russia is trying to do this disinformation. I mean, other than saying that they're Nazis and drug addicts, right? Meth heads and so forth. And he has to rid them of Nazis, to the only Jewish leader of a country other than Israel, which, duh. So the Russian reports that he had called on his forces to lay down their arms. And that's fake news. Of course, Zelensky did not do that, would not do that. So he had to go out there and say, and quote, truth is on our side. This is our land. This is our country, our children, and we will keep defending them all, he said. Glory to Ukraine. And last night, I said it earlier, Biden signed a memorandum, immediately military assistance to Ukraine. That's $250 million for overall assistance, $350 million for defense articles and services to the Department of Defense and military education and training. I don't know if that's supposed to be a code word when it says education and training. Biden asked for $6.4 billion in additional funding for Ukraine. This all comes down to energy. It really does. And World War III could be the result of energy. And the biggest cluster mistake here was allowing Germany or allowing Russia to get all these nations that were supposed to be allies of us, of the West, dependent on Russia. We were not that long ago, folks, an energy export nation. Now we're buying oil from Russia. OPEC, of course. And Biden has to go hat in hand and beg them to produce more. You know, Donald Trump was refilling the strategic oil reserves at one point at $30 a barrel. He was filling our reserves up at $30 a barrel. Now we're over $100 a barrel. And he has the perfect out here. If he can just put his hand up and tell the progressive squad and all that noise, just stop. Shut up for a moment. And turn to the American people and say, look, this is an emergency. Europe is in turmoil right now. Russia has attacked a sovereign nation, bordering NATO nations. Article 5 could be kicked in here, and we're obligated to come. Now you have nuclear powers facing off. So turn the Keystone Pipeline back on. Get that 800,000 barrels of oil pumping. Drill, baby, drill. For now. This ridiculous green deal, and we need to go green overnight, can't happen. We all want to work towards a healthy planet and a greener planet, but we have to do it without sacrificing everything. And this guy in the Kremlin, Putin, he's evil. He's out of control. He can't be reasoned with. There were reports about his health. You don't know what you can believe, right? But if there are issues with his health and he thinks he has a shorter amount of time than he might have, this in conjunction to what I've been calling the Biden window of opportunity, because it's been about taking land and making sure as he took this land, he built up his ability to transport oil and gas. Energy has been at the base of all these problems. And this is what he's after, folks. A united Russia, and he's going to do it in by allowing the situation to develop where we have Germany and other nations. Italy, by the way, Italy's been very quiet. Have you noticed that they haven't really said too much? Yet they're getting their energy from Russia as well. And then to find out that the Biden administration, and this is where you got to scratch your head and go again, how stupid can you be? They share information with Xi in China, thinking that somehow they're going to get China to help them with the Russian situation, and they just turn that information over to Russia, and they abstain in the vote, by the way, and so does India. So they have Russia, China, and India all kind of coming together. So it's going to be Russia, India, China, and the U.S. and the UK for all intents and purposes. Is that how it's going to work out? This is not a good situation. This is definitely going to affect us here. And I'm not just talking about the $7 of gas and all that. Don't forget, Russia's also the largest exporter of wheat, and they just made the deal with China to buy some ridiculous amount. So that was an influx of cash into another influx of cash into Russia to finance the war. We are financing the war by buying 500,000 barrels of crude oil a day. The hell's wrong with us? We so need somebody else in this administration. We need another administration. We need someone who can see the big picture and not beholden, because everything that happens, because we get a look. How much money has the Biden family made between China and out of Ukraine and out of Russia, for that matter? And they talk about Trump. 508-871-7000. Join the conversation. Don't forget our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388 on this Saturday, the 26th, the last Saturday for the Joe Mangiacotti Show, as we go to weekday afternoons, starting out with Mondays and Fridays. We'll continue with the Sundays as well. So we'll be back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Let's go to Ken in Bolton. Good morning, Ken. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Joe, and hello again, Patriots. And I think it's only timely that we review the history of this time slot for conservative speaking. I believe it goes back about 12 years. Does that sound about right?
No, further than that. We started as conservatively speaking in 2007.
Okay.
We
15
were
years.
Yeah, we were on the air before Barack Obama became president. We were talking
And
about that election.
if I remember right, Pete the tech guy started it.
No. Started with Mike Wade, myself, and then Pete the tech guy had his own show. He was also a cameo show.
Didn't he have a Saturday morning show?
Yeah.
So what I'm stating is the slot. I'm speaking. I understand conservatively speaking, and so you and Mike obviously.
Yeah, it was always right. Saturday mornings were usually it was a larger conservative talk. Gary got floated in there for a while.
Back prior to 2007.
Yeah.
Wow. So we're talking almost 20 years about the time that I've been in Massachusetts. And I started as a 7 to 9 slot, if I remember right.
Yeah, over the years we've gone from 6 to 9, 7 to 9. It's fluctuated, but it's always been Saturday mornings. And then Mike retired in 2017, and I went solo, and then picked up the Sundays for the last couple of years or so, and it kind of brings us to today.
Well, let's not rule out it coming back, and hopefully with you.
But, well, the thing is, the goal here is to transition to weekday afternoons.
Well, let's do it all. More the merrier.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what will come in. There'll be some of the shows that I'll be taking the place of during the week. We'll move to Saturday mornings, and that's all Chris's call. I don't know. All I know is, I get starting this coming week. I have Fridays, and then Mondays and Sundays will keep. So the Sunday block will stay me, Mike, and Peter Blue till noon. So the Sundays will still stay that conservative talk, or at least common sense talk.
And now crossing over to what's going on in Ukraine, kudos to Mark in mentioning the Wolverine, because boy, did that strike with me, because I was a high school athlete and my team was the Wolverines.
Oh.
So I can relate to that. What the Ukrainians are doing. Literally, the world may look back at yesterday as being a turning point. But let's be serious. We were scared Wednesday night into Thursday. What is this leading to? How far is he going to go? And yesterday we started hearing stories that suggest he may be way overreaching, and what he's in now may be his worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Did you catch the story about the island?
No, what's up?
Where apparently there were some Ukrainian troops on an island surrounded by Russians. So the Russians got on their medium of communication and warned them, drop your guns or else.
And the guy yelled back, F you.
You can go F yourself.
Yeah.
Now, the sad news is they all died.
Yeah.
But it sent a message.
Yeah. And then look, we're seeing it. We're seeing them say, the member of parliament saying, yeah, I don't have a gun, but I have my kitchen knife and I'll gut those Russian pigs. His words, not mine, folks. So the sentiment, I mean, these people are a sovereign nation. They're a democracy. They like how they live. They like their form of government. They do not want to be under the Russian form of government. They certainly don't want to go back to the way it was in this former Soviet Union. And they're going to fight. And they're shocked, right? They're looking at this and saying, these were our brothers, right? We didn't think that they'd ever do this, that Russian soldiers would come in and kill Russians. And Putin's having a little bit of a problem on the home front, too. Right? I was saying Thursday night, 54 cities had rallies, anti-war rallies. 1,700 demonstrators were arrested. And he's got members of his own government who aren't so big on this, which is why that we need to do, first of all, use the SWIFT. I know we can't use the SWIFT because China will give the money and, China want to go to yen. Look, so what? The rest of the world is not coming off of the dollar, folks.
Joe, the hang up on SWIFT is the Germans. They are corrupt to the core.
Yeah.
You follow do you follow the news service DW at all?
No.
It's out of Germany. So you go on YouTube and just do DW, and they've got stuff this past week. By the hour, you can watch everything.
Well, the point is, they're corrupt. They're beholden to them. We knew this was going to happen, and we got to say tough to Germany. You know what? Tough. We got to use the SWIFT system and close him down and choke these oligarchs. Right? They've got yachts and luxury condos in Miami. They've got them in ports all around the world, in London, right? Because once you become a billionaire in Russia, what's the first thing you do? You buy a beautiful penthouse in Piccadilly Square. So seize all this stuff. Stop them from it. And so what? Right now, India is creating a system for payment, like the SWIFT system. The SWIFT is like the serious guys. For the people who don't know what we're talking about, when we say SWIFT, it's the PayPal for nations. It's a where you can transfer these monies through these accounts. Well, if they freeze that and they stop all these oligarchs to be able to pay anything and receive money, then they're cut off. Now, India's trying to, they're developing another money platform to replace it. Meantime, do that. Seize that. What is the problem with Biden that he's not getting serious? These sanctions they put in, it's a joke. Look at the stock market. It's barely phased them at all. And and Putin knew these were coming. He's prepared for all this. You don't think this is all thought out? So you're going to cut off their ability to transfer money. Stop buying fuel from him. Why are we buying fuel from Russia?
Sheer idiocy.
It's sheer idiocy. Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
here's another one. Joe, did you catch last night's news? Oh, yeah. Do you know what they're doing in the middle of this? They're sharing our country, our intelligence is sharing Russian, what they're learning about Russia with China.
Yeah, and China's turning it over.
And who's reporting this? The New York Times. So it isn't like a right-wing place. No, the New York Times is showing how idiot the Biden administration is. Fools.
No, it's
Absolutely
crazy.
Incredible.
And the stuff coming, because I was watching CNN. Now, CNN does have great, they're all over the place. And for this international stuff, it's going to help CNN's ratings. Something's going to help their ratings. A good old war is about the only thing that could do it. I was watching Jill Doherty in Moscow last. Now, Jill Doherty is our Jerry Doherty's sister.
Oh wow!
And so she used to be the Moscow chief. She was the State Department, White House. So she had an incredible
She's reporting
career.
for who?
And they took her out of retirement and they sent her to Moscow.
Well,
And
who's she reporting for now?
she's on CNN.
Ugh.
She's on CNN in Moscow. They got her out of retirement and sent her to Moscow. And she's reporting about the problems there, that they're not everybody's aboard on this, right? This is Putin,
absolutely.
who is moving forward without the full support of his cabinet or the equivalent of his cabinet, and he has members of his own government that don't want to be part of this, that they don't agree with what's going on, and you've got citizens. Now he's been controlling the propaganda in the news, and the fact that this ridding the country of Nazis and drug addicts. That's the premise he says that he's going after here, because he's got to take.
Do you want me to
back.
clarify that on Joe?
What?
I know. I'm forgetting the Ukraine leader's name, but
Zelensky.
Yes, Zelensky, right? He is of Jewish heritage.
Yeah.
What? No, the story on Putin. And I'm not forgiving him, but I'm just explaining that this war's really been going on for 8 years in the southeast corner. So that's what started Monday, was his, giving them their independence. Well, they're not leaders in those areas declaring independence. No, this is all a Putin game. But the bottom line is, it is nasty as to what is happening. And some of the people, the Ukrainians fighting the separatists in that region, are really nasty. And they do throw around Nazi words. So he's using that thread, which is what our media does, attacking us. He's using that thread to describe Ukraine in that way. But that's the game that's going on.
Yeah. Well, first he took Georgia, then he took Crimea, and he took that. In the last time Biden was in the White House as VP, he took it, and we did nothing, right? Barack Obama sent ready-to-eat meals, REMs, and pillows. Ridiculous, and allowed it. So now Putin takes Crimea, and really the world does nothing. Nobody stops him. Nobody really helps them. And he bides his time for a while during the Trump administration, doesn't do anything really. And now, bang, he decides it's time to reunite Ukraine with Russia. Now, what are we going to do? Right? Because you go back to 1990, Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania, they all broke off and became independent. Belarus stayed,
And Belarus really isn't independent. They've been militarily tied to Putin from the get-go.
Yeah.
Their leader's been in office for over 20 years, almost the exact amount of time that Putin has. They're buddies. They're officially independent, but militarily tied.
So the point is, what are we doing here, folks? We are empowering this nation, Russia, by buying the fuel, allowing Germany to become independent, Italy to become dependent on them, right? We're buying the fuel. We should have sent more javelins, more anti-tank, more ammunition. We just should have done more before the invasion, because you can't do it now. These sanctions are ridiculous in their effect. They're not affecting him whatsoever. Nothing's happening, right? When he came out to announce what they were, you watched the stock market, it dove before the announcement. After the announcement, it bounced back up, because Wall Street determined, yeah, that's really no big deal. It's not going to affect anything, right? The ruble dropped, their market dropped, and then it went back up. So did Germany's. Look, if you're going to do sanctions, do the nuclear option sanctions, get to the SWIFT. Go after these people individually, seize these oligarchs' yachts and luxury condos and mansions all around the world. Do it. And then, we're sending our troops to the NATO. We shouldn't have to gotten that far. We should have made sure that Zelensky had everything he needed to defend his country even more so. And now the world is watching, and China has already started heating up with Taiwan. That's the next thing. And China's never even recognized that and they're not, by the way, they're technically a Republic of China. If you look at a Taiwanese passport, it says right on it, Republic of China. So they've never really been independent as far as China was concerned. So and she says, look, we're going to reunite Taiwan with mainland China, just like we did with Hong Kong. And I don't think he's going to wait that long. Thanks for the call, by the way. I don't think he's going to wait much longer. So we could have this going on multiple fronts as well, folks. Anyway, we're coming up to a break here for 7 o'clock. Coming back on the other side, we'll be joined by Dr. Larry Fedowa. He's had some interesting guests recently that he's talked to, and we can yield some information from him on that, get his perspective. He's also has some good articles he's putting up on his post, Dr. Larry Online, worth taking a read, his State of the Union address for one of them. So we'll do that, and we'll take a break. We'll come back on the other side for the final edition of the Saturday editions of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN, 508-871-7000. Stick with us. Back in a moment.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
7 o'clock. Hey, folks, Joe Mangiacotti from the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, talk radio is the immune system to the partisan, bias, political rhetoric attacking us on a daily basis. Get inoculated. The Joe Mangiacotti Show is your vaccine. Join me weekend mornings, 6 to 8. A wedding is a beautiful ceremony that honors the joining of two human hearts, and it is the most important day of your life. And if you'd like your wedding to be as memorable experience and a genuine reflection of who you are, and one that your family and your guests will carry with them for the rest of their lives, I'd offer you to consider a Justice of the Peace. Justice Missy Margolis has been performing her duties for over 20 years for the sheer joy and pleasure of bringing other people happiness. Missy officiated my wedding ceremony. She will work with you to create the perfect wedding ceremony that reflects your traditions, beliefs, and culture while showing the world the beauty of who you are. I've personally known Missy for nearly 40 years, and whether you have a complex or a traditional wedding, a quick modern wedding, or a ceremony, Justice Missy Margolis will make it beautiful. Missy can also do vow renewals, remembrances, and ceremonies that include your children. She can perform a small, intimate ceremony to a large wedding any day of the week. Missy is truly a justice for all. And you can call Missy directly at 508-735-8999 or by email at justicemissyforyou@gmail.com. Justice Missy, number 4, letter U @gmail.com. And of course, you can click a justiceforall.com. Again, justiceforall.com. Hi, I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and you probably recognize me from the radio, or at least my voice, maybe from this station you're listening to now. And if you don't know, over my 30-plus years on the air, I've been best known for the real estate, mortgage, and financial talk that I've done. And what you may not know is that I haven't just talked the talk, but I've walked the walk. You see, I've been a licensed real estate salesperson here in the Commonwealth since 1984. And my very first venture into talk radio in 1986 was actually a real estate talk show. So I just wanted to remind you, or maybe inform you, that if you're considering selling or purchasing a property or looking to invest in income-producing property, consider having a conversation. You won't just be tapping the 3+ decades of my experience with marketing, purchasing, investing, and even being a landlord, but that of the countless experts and professionals that I've had the privilege of interviewing, working with, and learning from. Think of the vast network and contacts you'd have access to. So before making a move, make a call. You can click joerealtors.com, find me on Facebook at Joe Realtors, or email me at cameoproperty@gmail.com, or just call direct to my cell, 508-969-1088. That's 508-969-1088, and listen to Heidi Sizza and myself on Handling Change.
If you were to ask any retiree in a word, they would tell you that retirement is all about income. Income in retirement is a permission slip to enjoy life. Income provides the freedom to spend money each month, knowing that more will arrive next month and the month after that. As important as it is to accumulate assets for your retirement, it's equally, if not more important, to maximize the income being generated from your assets. My name is Jerry Doherty, and my radio program, Making Money Last, has been heard right here on WCRN. Well, do you know if your retirement income is as high as it could be? Are you living off less than you should be? Well, I'd like to offer you a complimentary review to answer that very question. Simply call my office at 877-772-1776. I'm conveniently located right on Route 9 in Westboro. Again, my number is 877-772-1776. Let's increase your income today.
Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti here, and I have recently purged and refreshed with new furniture and, most importantly, a new bed. We spend about a third of our life on our mattresses, and it's so vital we have the right one, and we don't break the bank to do that. I first bought a mattress from the big store the brothers used to own, and a power base that moved the head and feet, and then I met John, and I checked out his showroom at 50 Main Street in Ashland and online at boxdropmiddlesex.com, and ended up with a better mattress, a power base that also heats and massages, all for less than half of what I was going to spend at the other place. Boxdrop is a discount mattress store, and John specializes in clearance and closeouts, and he buys directly from the manufacturer with low overhead and just family employees, passing the savings on to you, and you can see it reflected in the price every day. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or call John on his cell. This is his cell number, 508-579-9303. That's 508-579-9303. And you can find John on Facebook at Boxdrop Middlesex. John loves referrals, and this is the best referral I've given so far this year. Dropboxmiddlesex.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second hour of the Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show, the final Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show, starting in March. I will be bookending the weekend, Fridays and Mondays at 1 o'clock. Sunday mornings will continue at 6 o'clock, that block. Myself, Mike Wade, and Peter Blute. So tune in Sunday mornings and join me on weekday afternoons, Mondays and Fridays at 1 p.m. Don't forget, we're on all social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show, and we're live streaming on Twitter, Facebook, my LinkedIn page, YouTube channel, and even Twitch TV. And you can join us that way, live streaming on the TuneIn app. Just tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do that, no questions asked. All right, invite into the conversation. Let me join in with Dr. Larry Fedawar, a special edition with the good doctor. Hey, Dr. Larry, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So we didn't have war in Europe last time we talked a couple weeks ago, but we do today. And it's, you know, watching what's going on, they thought they were going to take Kiev last night, but Putin has more resistance coming from the citizens than I think he thought. So I think he underestimated the will of the fight. He's using propaganda to say that Zelensky has told all of the citizens of Ukraine to lay down their weapons. He had to go on to social media and say, no, I did not say that. That's not the case. Fight and continue on. Glory to Ukraine, as he ended it. And I'm looking at this, and I can't help but have some comparisons and draw parallels to World War II, Nazi Germany in the 30s, the Munich Betrayal Treaty, as it was known. And we've got a madman in Russia who has a hit list of people, who is using tactics that are not great guerrilla warfare. He has Russian soldiers dressing up as Ukrainian police, that kind of thing going on. What's your take on this, and how did we get there? And I know a big part of this, or at least what I was talking about, is it's tied to energy. We're still buying 500,000 barrels of oil from Russia. How stupid are we? The Keystone Pipeline does 800,000 barrels a day. We could eliminate the need to buy 500,000 from Russia, and as far as I'm concerned, I'd give the 300,000 barrels a day to Germany just to fix their stupidity for getting in bed with Russia.
Well, it's a really discouraging situation all the way around. Obviously, you can't really talk about this current situation unless you say three words: Germany, energy, and NATO. And they're tied together because, as you mentioned, we canceled our objections to the Nord Stream pipeline.
Nord Stream 2, which Trump was very adamant about that because of allowing Russia to become the source of energy.
And so by doing that, we lost our leverage both with Germany and because of that with Biden. I mean, with Putin. So then of course we're now buying our energy, particularly oil, from Russia, and that means that we're basically financing this military adventure that he's on. So then we get to the point that Germany is obviously, in fact, Europe in general, the EU is not really capable of providing its own energy, and the sources are rather limited. So if we're not in the game and Russia is in the game, then he's got the spigot that he can turn off, and in one day he can destroy NATO, because Germany is not going. They're the principal effect of Germany, and I mean of NATO, and they're not going to be able to resist. So NATO is, and that's of course one of Biden's principal goals is to destroy NATO. And why would he do that? Because he, I think, as a lot of other people think, he has his eyes on more than just expanding the current Russian government over the former Soviet empire. He's looking at Western Europe as well. And the analogies to Hitler in 1938 are simply astounding. And if you want to know the really bad news, you read Peter Pry's column that I sent around yesterday, in which he compares our NATO's capabilities, military capabilities, against Russia's, and there's no comparison. He could take over. He could take over the entire EU in one day with his nuclear blast from what do you call it, the EMP?
Yeah,
it's just
electromagnetic pulse. He could knock out all the electronics and computers and cell phone services and everything. Yeah.
It's I mean, we've put ourselves in such a perilous situation. It's really scary.
So I guess it comes back to, right, and if you've got somebody who's kind of lost it and he's evil, I mean, someone who just blatantly poisons people in front of the whole world and has no problem with it, who has hit lists, and he has these target lists going into Ukraine, right? His military has been given the hit list, so he has no problem with just cold-blooded murder, and he knows that this isn't going to stop here. And he's going to come up against the NATO nations, and Article 5 can kick in. Now you have two nuclear powers facing off. Why is it that we didn't do more to stop somebody in 2022 deciding that they're going to just take a sovereign nation, a democratically elected government with borders and doing their thing, and just, hey, I want this because I think it should be part. Well, who cares what you think? That's that's you, man. Why should he be allowed to do this? And why wasn't there more to stop? Now, I'm not, I am very apprehensive about us ever sending American troops to die anywhere, but we certainly could have sent more assistance, more javelins, more ammunition, more black ops or contract security, as they say, right? There's more we could have done, more that the NATO nations could have done. Boris Nelson, I mean, you got UK, who was all on board and doing more too, and stopping this, because he's not going to stop. Because we go back right to 1990 when those other Baltic nations, Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania, broke off. He's going to want them brought back into the fold. And why is this happening? Why
Well,
did we not do more to stop this Ukrainian invasion?
Yeah, because the fundamental strategic assumption of NATO since 1945 has been that that the nuclear shield of America will protect Europe, and that was true until about 10 years ago, when the nuclear war capabilities of Russia have began to increase, and we meaning not only NATO but the USA, we have tried to disarm rather than try to build up our nuclear capability. And so now the very essence of the assumption of nuclear protection that has been the underpinning of NATO all these years is gone, because they are much more, and that's just Russia. Now start talking about China, and you've got about 10 times what Russia has, and we haven't kept up, and we're now looking down the barrel of a gun.
And we also, because there was it 1995 under Clinton, the agreement that Ukraine actually give up their nuclear armaments and that would have their back. So yeah, we didn't want them to have nukes. Give the nukes back to Russia, and we'll have your back. But you're not part of NATO. But give up your nukes, and they did it. They became a non-nuclear nation. So the balance of power got imbalanced at that point, and that happened. And when you bring up China, Doctor, not only that, look at people may forget, it wasn't that long ago on this show, we were talking about the supersonic missile that they just demonstrated to the world that can travel the circumference of the globe in record time in pinpoint accuracy. That's something that I don't think we possess. We even possess supersonic missiles like that.
We don't have. Not only do we not have numbers, we're completely outgunned in terms of numbers. I mean, 200 to 1. But it's not just that; it's also technology. Our antiquated nuclear shield is virtually worthless in comparison to what the enemy can field. I tell you what, if we get out of this, boy, we better start doing something else, because it's just, we're almost like Britain in 1938 and 1939. Where the Blitzkrieg just took over all of Europe before UK even got started, and had it not been for the United States, they would have succeeded. And we're pretty much in the same situation, and the Dunkirk kind of approach to defense is really not even viable now. It's a scary situation.
Yeah. And what are we going to do? And what can we do now? Right now, today? I mean, I think that these sanctions, that and don't forget, right, prior to the announcing them, right, there was like hyped up sanctions. You got Kamala Harris saying that sanctions are a big deterrent, going to stop this from happening. At the same time, President Biden saying, sanctions were never meant to stop it, right? Well, you're part of the same administration, guys, aren't you? Right? You are the president and vice president of the same administration, yet your messaging is different there about these sanctions. And then the sanctions that come in, it's what? It's a firecracker, compared to a javelin missile. Nothing. I mean, the stock market dived before it took off and corrected itself after they came out because Wall Street decided they're not really going to do anything. He wouldn't touch the SWIFT initially. He wouldn't even personally sanction Vladimir Putin until other nations were. Then he's like, yeah, okay, we'll do that too. Why, if the sanctions are it, why not just go nuclear on the sanctions and get at him and all of the oligarchs with their yachts and their luxury condos and mansions and houses in Piccadilly Square and bank accounts in the Caymans and all that. India is working on a pay system, right, to countermeasure the SWIFT, and China's turning everything over. So this is we don't seem to have the clout in fear and muscle that America had at one time. Or am I reading it wrong?
No, that's correct. But we're not helpless. But because we do have an economy that is about various estimates of between 20 and 200 times bigger than Russia. And in fact, Russia and China together were still 20 times bigger than they are. So where we have to be very smart is we have to use that, and if you really want to be aggressive again, the first thing you do is you call off. It's what Larry Kudlow calls drill, 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 and get back in the energy competition game, which we excel at, and that first of all cuts off Russia's income. I mean, their income is in the tens of billions of dollars virtually every day now, because of us, because we got out of the market. So that's the very first thing we do. And the second thing we do is and there have been calls already for sanctioning their central bank, which would mean all of the in and out transactions that now are denominated in dollars would not be available to the Russians at all. And I mean, they would consider that an act of war, but it certainly would show that we are here alive and well and willing to engage. Whether they could actually win a confrontation with us on that would, I mean, they might be able to beat us in a couple of days as far as cyber warfare, but after that, what? There wouldn't be any financial structure that would be of any advantage to them. So at least we raised the stakes to the point where we could do them more mortal damage by cutting off their access to international commerce. And then, of course, the other piece of that is there have already been demonstrations in Russia, in Moscow particularly, that show that the population, the Russian people, are not very happy with Mr. Putin and all his adventurism. So he's got real problems at home, and if we took this approach, at least he would have to say, I'm going to be looking at a very, very aggressive and unhappy population in my home base, and we also have other ways of trying to stimulate that. But the point that right now is we've got to get back in the game, and we've got to get in an aggressive way, and we've got to show them that they have a lot to lose by going against us. And so far, what we're doing, and people are saying, the idea of economic sanctions has never worked by itself. You've got to have muscle behind it. In our case, up until the last 10 years, we had not only military, not only economic, but also military muscle. We don't have that anymore, but we still do have the corner on world trade. So that's our major advantage, and we've got to start using it today. That's something you say, what could we do today? That's what we could do today.
Agreed. Now, I go back to the stupidity of turning off the Keystone Pipeline. The fact that just a very short time ago, we were an energy exporter, energy independent, and then exporter. But does it really come down to the pettiness of the Biden administration being so anti-Trump that they had to reverse all the policies, from the Keystone Pipeline to stop building the wall to even screwing up the Abraham Accords, because he stopped the sales of the weaponry, the aircraft, to the United Emirates. He insulted Egypt and did everything can to mess that up. And for the first time, we saw Israel, head of the Middle East nation, sitting at the same table, opening up flight. Remember they were going to actually have direct flights to Israel. Open up these diplomatic channels, and oh my God, peace breaking out in the Middle East. Something that my entire life, including from my childhood, before I even understood geopolitical landscapes, there was that saying, that will happen when there's peace in the Middle East. This is just the way we thought about it. Yet here we have, and of course the media paid no attention to this incredible historic achievement of the Abraham Accords. Does it really come down to that? Anti-Trump is part of the reason of this, because what other than the Squad and the Green New Deal could it be to shut off the Keystone Pipeline? Because it just went to train cars and trucks, which are more costly and dangerous. Even that side admits that the most secure economic way to transport gas and oil is through a pipeline. So we shut this pipeline on. And I was saying, and I think before you came on, that this is an opportunity for Biden to make an historic move here, put his hand up to the Squad in the green noise and just say, shut up for a moment, let the adults talk. Look, this is an emergency. Turn the Keystone Pipeline back on, lighten up these leases, get back to, like Kudlow says, drill it, and I think it was Palin who said, drill, baby, drill. And just on that news, before you even actually pull one drop of oil out, that announcement, Dr. Larry, will ripple through the world. Would ripple through the world, right? Would change it.
Heard very strongly in Moscow, because that's the base. The fact that we got out of the energy business is really the basis for him.
So why did we?
Money to be able to do what he's doing.
So the question is, why did we? I mean, is the only reason he shut the pipeline on is because to stick it to Trump?
Well, there's more to it. This is part of a texture of an almost religious reverence for the so-called climate exchange, the climate problem that we're having. That they feel like we have a crisis. They like the word term existential crisis. Yeah. There's no such thing, but these people say, and it's part of this ideology that is very comfortable with a Marxist view of mankind, namely that if you give everything to everybody, that you can you will have peace, tranquility, and live happily ever after. And of course, and this is the idealism of socialism that is frequently overlooked by people in the capitalist world. But that's really what motivates these people, and that's the reason that Europe, for the most part, has gotten so far away from fossil fuels. They've gone headlong into a very, very flawed concept of how they can get the world to have less emissions.
Well,
it's so foolish. But
yeah,
but
Dr. Larry, what I don't understand, right?
That's right. It's a religion to them.
And they're saying, cut this off, right? Cut this off. But America, it's hobbling America, period, because India is still this huge pollution promoter. China is going to build coal plants until 2032. They made it very clear. But we got to take a quick break here at 1:30, folks, in the Joe Mangiacotti Show, last Saturday edition. Dr. Larry Fedorwar will continue with this on the other side. Stick with us, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation.
We're going to lunch. This is Out with Joe. With Joe Mangiacotti.
Actually, honey, we're going to lunch.
Restaurants, food and drink, entertainment.
Put some bacon on a biscuit and let's go.
Now it's time to go out with Joe.
Welcome to this edition of Out with Joe, brought to you by Levante's Auto School. With 5 locations, click Levante'sAutoSchool.com to find one near you. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. And this week, Teddy's on the Hill opens in the former Red Hat space. More on this, we invite into the conversation Mark Hurwitz from NECN in Dig, Boston. Hey, Mark.
How you doing, Joe?
Welcome to Out with Joe. So what is going on over there in the old West End and Red Hat, which is, I know, a place you used to hang out a bit, and I did too.
Yeah, well, we had a bit of a scare last June because the Red Hat closed after being in business since 1907. And immediately after it closed, we heard that a new owner, Jake Nicholson, was planning to breathe new life into the space. So he recently opened in late January, actually, Teddy's on the Hill, which basically it pays tribute to the Red Hat, but also has a refreshing, the menu is a little different, upgraded, and the space was renovated a bit, but they do definitely pay tribute to the old Red Hat.
Well, that was such a mainstay and a landmark for, like you said, I didn't even realize it goes back to 1907.
It's old.
The inside, they didn't do a complete redo. They just freshened it up a little bit, or did they really wipe it clean?
They did a pretty good renovation on it, but they kept it the same style basically as the old Red Hat, and the menu has a lot of the same items that you would see in the Red Hat. So, like nachos, burgers, wings, and of course, beer, wine, and cocktails. But one thing of interest is they're also serving South Shore style bar pizza, which is the only place in downtown Boston where you can get South Shore style bar pizza.
I think for some of our listeners, you have to explain exactly what South Shore style bar pizza is.
Well, it's an individual pizza. It's 9 or 10 inches in diameter, and it's a mix of mozzarella and cheddar cheese that extends all the way to the crust, and you can get it with burnt or laced edges, so it caramelizes along the edge. It's just a little like Greek pizza, but not really. It's fairly greasy. It's got like almost a shortbread crust, and they're small enough so that you order one and you can eat the whole thing with whatever you're drinking, your beer, whatever. But they're really good, and mostly on the South Shore only.
Well, it's great pub food, right? That kind of pizza is awesome. All right, and they're going to go after, again, the college students, the medical profession, the politicians. Who do you think? Who are they targeting?
Yeah, I think all the above. And back in the day, the Red Hat was actually catering to all the accountants. There's a lot of accountants who work in that area, but it's going to cater to business people, medical people. People at the State House will be going down there because it's right there. And yeah, definitely people from Suffolk University and maybe Emerson, which isn't too far away. So I'm guessing it'll be a nice mix of people there.
Awesome. And Mark, tell people where they can see your stuff and see your articles.
So I write food and travel articles for both NECN online and also also Dig Boston, both online and in print, and that's also food and travel. And also I do work on the Hidden Boston site, which is restaurant reviews. But these days, not much in the way of reviews, so it's kind of on hold right now.
Yeah, we have the same problem here with Out with Joe, not hitting a lot of restaurants. Mark, thanks for stopping by Out with Joe. I appreciate the coverage here.
Thanks so much, Joe.
And thank you for joining us. And for more on this posting and this complete article from Mark, click outwithjoe.com. We've suspended the Music Minute for the time being. Please support your local musicians. We do. Follow our social media platforms at Out with Joe. Out with Joe has been brought to you by Levante's Auto School with 5 locations, 1 near you. This find of her home for Teddy's Friends brought to you by Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet. Today's candidate is Moto. He's a 4-year-old male terrier American pit bull mix, tan and white, and is very much house trained. Moto is an intelligent boy who knows what he likes. Some of his favorite things are strolling leash walks and quiet nights at home. This lovely boy is sweet and laid back and shy-side with plenty of good manners and expects the same from both human and dog alike. For Moto, this means taking the time to get to know him. Moto is a gentleman who prefers to exchange pleasantries and go for a walk rather than to chest pump the high-five type greeting that more outgoing individuals prefer. He is past that puppy stage and in the prime of his life. Moto is looking forward to living as the only dog in a quiet adult home. Moto's motto is relax and take it easy. If you share the same philosophy, Moto might like to meet you. For more on Moto, click Teddy Goodpup's Facebook page. Pictures and links to the Worcester Animal Rescue League. Find of Her Home is brought to you by Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or Facebook at Boxdrop Middlesex.
We know why you're awake. Your child is about to get their driver's license. Levante's Auto School offers 1-week driving programs to help make sure your child stays safe and focused behind the wheel.
877 drive Ed.
Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Learn to drive safely and efficiently. Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click Levante'sAutoschool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to learn the rules and keep your cool. 877 drive Ed.
Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
All right, folks, welcome back to the 4th and final segment of the Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show, the final Saturday edition, by the way. This will be it, the last Saturday show that we do. Continue with Sundays, but we're adding Fridays. So you'll be able to tune in to the Joe Mangiacotti Show Mondays and Fridays at 1 o'clock, Sunday mornings at 6 o'clock as we continue that tradition. 508-871-7000 and join the conversation. Our text line is running at 617-297-8388. Don't forget, you can also email text Joe on the radio at gmail.com. It appears on the same screen in real time. Our guest online is Dr. Larry Fedewa. You can find him at drlarryonline.com as well. CPAC is going on down in Orlando, so we got to pay attention to that. I think Donald Trump speaks maybe today, that is. And President Zelensky had to post another video from Kiev on their Saturday morning, which would have been several hours before our Saturday morning, of course, vowing to defend the country. He said, quote, "There's a lot of fake information online that I call on our army to lay down arms and that there's evacuation. I'm here. We won't lay down our arms. We will defend our state." The Ukrainian military put up a fierce defense against the invading forces overnight, slowing down Russia's procession towards Kyiv, and that is according to our officials. So, Dr. Larry, they're using fake news and misinformation. Putin is putting out there that Zelensky, first of all, was out of the country, that he ran. He had to come on and make the appearance and post on that, no, I'm here. My staff is here. Our soldiers are here. We're citizens are here. We will fight. Glory to Ukraine. He's trying to say that Zelensky's calling for them to lay down their arms and give up, and that's that. So fake information, fake news is making its way into Putin's toolbox. They're also infiltrating Kiev and parts of Ukraine and dressing as native police officers, Ukrainian and Kiev police officers, but they're really Russian soldiers. So we're going to see, guerrilla warfare. We were making the distinction of the line to Wolverines. You know the movie Red Dawn? Did you ever see it?
Yeah.
And the Wolverines, they were actually high school, most of them football players, and they gathered up other teenagers in the Northeast.
Horseback.
Say again?
On horseback.
On horseback. They were using horseback and hiding in the mountains, and they were committing guerrilla warfare, and really caused a lot of trouble. And I think Putin underestimated the resolve of the average Ukrainian citizen here.
Well, that's true, but it and that could certainly make things more difficult for Mr. Putin. But I'm looking again at at this confrontation between NATO and Russia, and he says that Dr. Pry is really one of the world's most expert scientists in regard to to defense, and he says right in print here in this article that Russia could win World War III in Europe with a single super EMP nuclear warhead, which he would be in one day. He could essentially defeat the entire Western European Union. So, and he then goes on to talk about all of the factor. If the factors, for example, I don't want to get down in the weeds, but he goes in and talks by classification of weapons, exactly what the imbalance is in favor of the Russians. It's unfortunately we've got to do something, and we've got to take advantage of our strength is in the economic and trade area, and the banking area, and the economic area, and we just got to do it. But nobody, including the United States or Europe, nobody's talking about how to do this properly. And it's 1938 and 39 all over again. I mean, we got a new Hitler.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we're not, I mean, if we've talked about this, right? The whole fantasy about, well, if you had a time machine, go back and stop the stuff that Hitler, type of thing. And here we are watching history repeat itself. There's too many parallels to be comfortable here. And we're letting this happen. And Dr. Pry, now you have you interviewed Dr. Pry?
Oh yeah, I know him. He's actually become a friend of mine now.
Okay.
And of course, he's the bearer of bad news, but he's been talking this. He's written books on this for the last 20 years, and it's finally people are starting to listen to him, because now you're starting to hear even in the news commentaries a lot of the things that he's been preaching for years. But finally, the people are starting to listen to him. But it could be too late, especially with this administration. If you had Trump in there, you would have a different. In fact, I don't think this would have ever happened under Trump.
I believe that. I agree. Crimea was taken during the Obama administration. Things were pretty quiet. He didn't cause a lot of trouble. We became energy independent. We became energy exporter. We weakened the Soviet Union. We weakened Russia because they weren't selling the gas and oil at the rate that they are now, $1 billion a day. And all of a sudden, Joe Biden's back in the White House now as POTUS, And I've described this for the last couple of weeks. I've been calling this the Biden window of opportunity is what Putin looks at this. And I think he even thinks this is the time to do it because before even the United States Congress is controlled by Republicans. This is the time to do it. We're preoccupied with making the world green, but it's only making America green, right? Because China's not going to change anything. India isn't changing anything. You know, that's ridiculous. So it's nothing. It just hobbles us and restricts our businessmen. It's tying one hand behind our industries and corporations. And we're obsessed with pronouns and genders and bathrooms and woke military. Well, they're developing technology way ahead of us. These EMP pulses, supersonic missiles, all this stuff that we don't seem to be concerned with. We've got 4-star, 3-star generals saying, I wish I understood and I wish I was more woke and I want my military pretty tough and serious. But we're not doing enough. We didn't do enough, and now we're in a position, and I agree 100% that if this was still a Trump administration, Putin would not be doing this. And when things started to look like it was going bad, I think that we as the country, the United States, along with UK, probably would have thrown a bunch of stuff in there. Now, I do have to ask you about these kind of veiled threats that Putin is saying about anybody that gets in his way while he acquires this would be rained down on like they've never ever before have seen. Is he hinting at nuclear option there?
Well, you have to believe he is, and he knows the situation in terms of even in ground forces. I mean, he's got 20,000 tanks, and NATO, all of NATO, could only put out 219 in Poland, 260, 245 in Germany, 406 in France, 0 in Belgium, 18 in the Netherlands, and 44 in Denmark, and 225 in Britain. That's a total of 1,159 banks, tanks, and it's outnumbered 20-1. That's just tanks. And if you come into personnel, it's even worse. And that's just conventional forces. Then you start talking about nuclear and cyber. It's a similar type of situation, and that's why I'm saying that. And Fry doesn't really say this. He's just talking about what the problem that we have from a conventional from a nuclear war point of view. But I'm on my own when I start talking about what do we do, how do we fight this.
Right.
I'm not going to say that I'm quoting anybody else, but it seems to me that's what we have to do, and we have to do it damn fast.
Yeah, the cyber aspect is very concerning. Not that the United States doesn't have some pretty incredible abilities in cyber warfare as well. We can do some pretty incredible things, but we also can get attacked on that front very well as well. I want to take a pause here to go to the phones, Dr. Larry, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Mark in Worcester would like to jump on regarding Ukraine with you, Dr. Larry. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Larry.
Morning.
Have you heard one official condemnation from the People's Republic of China, official condemnation of the invasion of Russia into the Ukraine? I follow the news pretty closely. I have heard not a peep out of the People's Republic of China. Have you?
No, sir. You're absolutely correct.
All right, and the second thing I want to point out is that as the People's Republic of China officially made the statement that the Bank of China or the banking concerns in Beijing or Shanghai will not be doing transactions with Russia. Have you heard that? I haven't.
No, that Russia is being very.
Yeah. So in other words, they're going to be doing business with Russia, the Bank of China. That's the bottom line. And they're not officially condemned. Now, why do you think they're not doing either one of those things? I'm talking about China.
Because they're watching Russia see how they come out, and if they come out on top, then they're going to do the same damn thing in Asia.
In Taiwan.
Yeah, well, Taiwan is the start. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've also
if they invade Taiwan, it'll make what's looking like going on in Ukraine like a Cub Scout weenie roast.
They can conquer Taiwan in about a half a day.
You really think so, huh?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
They will do it with cyber warfare because they don't even have to send in all those fighters. All they have to do
you have right now U.S. Navy warships regularly cruising the Straits of Taiwan.
Right.
China knows that. You've got a aircraft carrier, at least one task force in the area of Taiwan right now as we speak. You know that, don't you? So it's not going to be no cakewalk taking over the island of Taiwan. I disagree with you.
The weapons these days are not any longer territory. They are communication, and China is way advanced in terms of anything that Taiwan can put forward. And if they did it suddenly, they wouldn't even have the advantage. We can't react.
The U.S. Navy is there already as we speak, and they have the capability.
All right, but let Dr. Larry explain this, Mark.
Yeah, all right.
Go ahead, Doc.
Well, it's the point is that there isn't going to be any fighting because the straits can be completely. They can in fact challenge the landing and the transfer of personnel across the strait from China to Taiwan. Yes, they can do that. But if Taiwan is completely immobilized by attacking all of their communications capability, then the same kind of dysfunction that they can cause for the Taiwanese, they can also affect. They can't necessarily destroy, but they can certainly affect the U.S. Navy as well. So you've got Taiwan completely in chaos because their weapons don't work, their telephones don't work, their computers don't work, nothing works. Their traffic lights don't even work. And so they're in complete chaos, and the Chinese really don't have to invade. They can just wait for this whole thing to get completely out of hand, and by that point, the Taiwanese and everybody else is asking for any kind of mercy, because they'll starve to death, and cutting off their water and their food is much more devastating than even bombs.
Yeah. Now, I mean, so China has thousands and thousands of computer, I guess for lack of a better way, hackers, computer professionals working in their cyber warfare. Although we have Air Force Cyber Division, right?
They're all trained by Apple.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, I mean, why do you think that Wall Street is having a big rally about all this. It's because these guys are all making so much money in China that they don't want to. China's not involved, so they think, oh, well, we really things are going to go on just as usual.
Yeah.
You got all these capitalists that are so damn greedy that they can't see what the threat against their own country.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. I mean, it's Apple subsidiaries, right, in China, where they've had to build those suicide fencing. I mean, they would lock these people into these factories. They lived and worked there. They made their way to the roof. They'd jump off the end of their lives, and they had to put that fencing up, the nets, to stop people from committing suicide. Those were Apple companies. People say I use Droid, and I'm like, I can't bring myself to own an Apple. Not that Droid doesn't, because no matter who you are, doctor, right? These batteries. How do you think this lithium and the chemicals, right? They're out of these mines where children are being used in South Africa and in places around the world to cobalt, right? What about this cobalt mine that Hunter Biden had a piece of?
Yeah.
I mean, when you start drilling down to this stuff, it's so ridiculous. And again, we have a sitting president that has so many tentacles into so many areas through the Biden corrupt family here that we don't even know how deep it is and how many people have their hooks into him and conflicts of interest that there are when it comes to this. And part of the reason that we need a Trump in there is you need somebody who didn't get there from years and years of politics. We had the first president elected, I mean, other than George Washington, right? The original, say, first few presidents who never had an elected position before.
And that's why there's so much against. They were so against him.
They're nothing on him.
He wasn't one of them,
Not one of them at all. And he was beholden to nobody and no special interest group. He had nothing, no skeleton in the closet when it came to that. These special prosecutors, by the way, right, in what Southern District of Manhattan just stepped down. So that investigation's gone away, by the way. And before we end up time, just a note, a question. This Durham case, you think that this is just still the beginning, that we have more and more? I mean, the word is, now that there's been 3 indictments, that people are talking, right? They realize that this thing isn't going away. They're going to be held out to dry, and people are willing to come forward and talk now about the Russian collusion hoax.
Yeah, if they can actually get to, it looks like if this guy Durham lasts long enough, they can get there. And once they're in court, then this whole thing is going to blow wide open, I think. But
and if Jim Jordan turns up as chairman of the Judiciary Committee after the midterm elections, that's a whole nother ball game there too, I think.
Yeah. Between now and then, the only thing that we're going is this indictment by Durham and his crowd. I wish the hell they had worked so slow, but they'd been a year earlier, we probably would definitely have a different president.
Yeah, you would hope so. Real quick, so you have a good article a nice article you put out on Dr. Larry Online, your personal state of the union, short-term dangerous, long-term positive. That's worth a read. Give me a minute cap of what that's about and what people will find on that if they go check it out.
That is on. If you're not on my list, that is on the website. The article by Dr. Pry, the earlier article by Dr. Pry is also. No, they're not there. You had to be on my list to get those.
No, I'm talking about the State of the Union article.
Yeah, that's on the website.
Right.
Dr. Larry.
And just tease it for us. Tell people what the gist of that is that they'll find on there.
basically, I guess it's not too different from what we've been talking about this morning, except it's a lot more detailed. I'm saying that our biggest problem is going to be making it from here to next January, provided that the Republicans win both. If the Republicans win both houses of Congress, I think there's going to be an impeachment. But even if they just win the House, there will be at least no more damage. But if they don't, I don't see how we're going to come out of this thing without a war and without certainly a recession and a war. It's going to sound a lot like 1930. And so I'm saying that my own State of the Union, which is kind of presumptuous, but is that the current status of the Union is extremely dangerous, but the long term, I think, is positive.
There you go. Well, we're running out of time, but again, it's on drlarryonline.com. Go check it out. It's worth the read, Dr. Larry. And I just want to say, I've enjoyed these Saturday mornings, folks. I've loved it for 15 years doing this, but this is the last Saturday show of the Joe Mangiacotti Show, but I will be on Fridays as well. Monday, Fridays at 1 o'clock, Sunday mornings at 6 o'clock. Dr. Larry, you'll continue with us once a month as well as we transition to weekday afternoons for the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Hey, enjoy the rest of your Saturday, folks, but I will be back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. and every Sunday going forward. All right. Thank you, Russ. That wraps it up. Thank you, Dr. Larry. Great job as usual.
WACE Chicopee.